My name is Michael Manis, and today we're pitting two wireless lavaliere microphones against each other. The tried and true Sennheiser G3 at $800 and the brand new Fifine K037B at $50. Let's see how these two microphones compare. So I've got both microphones clipped to me right now, and throughout the rest of the video, I'm going to be switching between the two audio sources so you can really see just how different both microphones are, side by side in a real world comparison. They're both mounted to my camera and they're both recording internally, but suffice to say they are as raw can get. They're completely unedited, and hopefully that'll give you a good idea of what each microphone sounds like. Full disclosure, Fifine did send this to me free of charge, but they're not paying me to make a review and they're not paying me anything at all. They sent me this microphone for free, but I like to think that my opinion can't necessarily be bought for $50, but I guess we'll find out. Anyway, let's see what this thing is all about. So in the box, it comes with the transmitter, a headset microphone, which I guess is for when you're doing live stage stuff. We're not even gonna touch this thing. We got the lav mic, which I'm using right now, receiver, camera adapter cable so you can plug it into your DSLR, and the manuals. So the first thing I noticed about this thing out of the box was that there is no mounting options on the receiver, which kind of makes sense because I think this thing was originally designed to be used as sort of a stage performance mic, and so you were supposed to put the receiver directly into an amplifier or a soundboard, but in our case it's pretty inconvenient. Once you add the 3.5mm adapter to plug it into your camera, the receiver kind of just dangles around, which is really obviously not ideal for a number of reasons. One, and the biggest one, being that it's going to damage the input on your camera unless you have some way to mount it. Also, it just looks really unprofessional. So I've come up with a couple options for mounting this thing. The first one being tape. I don't really like using tape to mount things to my camera because it leaves residue if you leave it for too long, and it also just kind of looks really crappy. So tape is not an ideal solution, but it'll work if you got it. What I recommend is you get some Velcro tape and you put one half on the receiver and the other bit on your camera. If you have a camera cage, you get a little bit more surface area, and then you can just stick it on there. It's nice and solid, much better than just dangling or taping it to your camera. That said, for my purposes, I didn't really like any of those options because they're all temporary. Having Velcro on your camera might not be convenient or even possible if you have a smaller camera. So what I did instead was I removed the back panel, then I drilled a hole directly in the back, and using a 1/4-20 screw and a 1/4-20 barrel connector, I just screwed them together in between the plastic and then closed everything up, put it all together, and that gave me a nice 1/4-20 thread that I could use to mount it to basically anything. What I ended up doing was taking a little mini ball head with a hot shoe on it, which let me mount it to the top of my camera. That gives me the best options for sending a signal to it. I can also articulate it so it's in the best spot for the input. This to me makes sense. I feel like Fifine, if you want to market this towards videographers, you're going to need more than just a cable to adapt it to the camera. Having a mounting option was also pretty important. That said, I don't think you should discount this microphone yet. For $50, it definitely might be worth it for the audio quality. Let's go to our first test, the distance test between the Sennheiser G3 and the Fifine K037B. So unfortunately we're outside now and I've got both mics attached to this mic. We're gonna test the range on both of these microphones and I'm gonna walk that way until they both cut out. This is also a good outdoor test. It's pretty windy, so you can probably tell which one is picking up the most wind noise at this point. I got the Fifine on top of my camera to give it the best possible chance because I know it's probably the least capable mic. Either way, I'm gonna grab that tape measure and start fucking walking. So we're at 20 feet. I've got both the mics on me. What should I say? Something embarrassing that happened to me. All right, we're at 20 feet. And one time when I was a kid, I walked in on one of my friend's moms naked. 35 feet. And 40 feet. One time when I was a really little kid and we were skating, I had to pee really bad and I just peed my pants because there was no bathrooms nearby. And we're still going. 50 feet. So we're at 60 feet. This is apparently close to the limit of the Fifine's distance capabilities. One time Dad's lady friend went in to give me a hug and I accidentally kissed her on the cheek and it was really awkward. 77 feet, 80 feet, okay. So at this point we should be out of the range of Fifine. I'm curious if either of them are even picking me up at this point. I don't know, I've called my teacher mom on several different occasions. That's pretty common. I know that's kind of weak. Hopefully I'll think of something in the next 20 feet. Still going, 90 feet, still going. So we reached the limit of the tape measure. I honestly don't know if it's still picking up any audio at this point, but I'm just gonna start walking. So we're at about 150 feet. One time when I was coming back to class, I farted right as soon as I entered the door, and then when my teacher opened the door, I said, "Woo, did you fart?" Because I was embarrassed about my own fart. I was a kid. Ugh. All right, we're all the way across the field. I could keep going, but there's hardly a point at this point. Probably like 300 feet away. And one time when I was at the store, I grabbed someone else's hand, thinking it was my mom. It wasn't. And then I got scared. All right, I'm gonna start coming back. Who knows if you can even hear this. All right, so I got pretty far away. I'm not even sure. Hey, what the fuck? Hey, that's my camera. That's my camera. Oh. So I'm here at my desk, and that means it's time to do some post-production. Now we've heard what the audio on both these microphones sounds like without any editing whatsoever, in the worst case scenario, outside in the wind with no cover. Now I want to see what we can do to the audio in post, because you don't typically post a video or your audio without first EQing it and cleaning it up. So although the Fifine and the G3 sound drastically different at this point, I'm willing to bet that we can get the Fifine to a similar level as the G3. Again, I'm not an audio guy, so we'll see how this goes. I'm not really sure if I can do it, but let's just try it out. So first of all, we've got both audio clips here. Let's play the first one. This is the Sennheiser G3 raw, no editing whatsoever. We got the audio clip, and then we got a little bit of silence afterwards so you can hear the noise. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. So that's the G3. Now let's check out the Fifine. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. So obviously a huge difference to me right off the bat. The Fifine is a little bit more tinny. It's quite, yeah, it just lives more in the highs, doesn't have really a lot of the body that the G3 does. And also there's a lot more noise at the end of it in the silent bit than there is in the G3. But let's see how it fares after we do some post-processing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to denoise it, then I'm going to limit it, and then I'm going to EQ it, and we'll see which one sounds better. Again, probably the G3, but I'm willing to bet that the Fifine does a great job at audio shit. That's what we're here for. Let's fucking do it. Okay, so I finished editing both audio clips. I think I did a pretty good job. Again, I'm not an audio guy, but they're both perfectly usable. Let's see which one sounds the best. But first, let's hear what the original sounded like, and then we'll listen to the fully edited ones with effects. So first, here's the G3 with no effects whatsoever. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. And here's what the G3 sounds like after effects. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. So there's definitely a lot less background noise. It sounds a lot fuller. It sounds crisper. Now let's check out the Fifine and see how it did. So here it is, again, without any effects whatsoever. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. So definitely a lot of noise, definitely a lot of background noise. It kind of picks up the room a little bit more, but let's see what it sounds like after I applied some basic effects to it. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. My political opinion comes mostly from memes. So obviously the audio quality on the G3 is significantly better. The Fifine seems to fall apart a little bit after denoising. I feel like if I recorded at a higher volume and didn't have such an echoey room, I could make them sound a lot closer, and you probably wouldn't even notice the difference. The thing is that there's a price difference between the two of like a factor of 10. So for the price difference, it's incredible what this Fifine can do. That said, the G3 is obviously the winner, but when you look at price, if you're starting out, totally worth the money, I would say, on the Fifine. So before making this video, I watched a bunch of reviews on the Fifine K037B, and I feel like a lot of people weren't giving their honest opinions about it, so I want to talk about some of the things that I really don't like about this microphone. The design of the microphone itself is kind of strange. The transmitter is completely different than the receiver. The receiver is like a lot cheaper. There's no mounting options as discussed. The antenna is a lot cheaper, the switch and the light is a lot cheaper, and there's also no real battery indicator, so you can't tell what the battery level's at on the receiver. On the transmitter, the microphone itself is a mini XLR, which is kind of irritating because it's a lot more difficult to find these locally. You have to order them online. Whereas the Sennheiser G3 and most microphones have a 3.5mm input, which is a more standard size. So if this microphone breaks on the Fifine, that means I'm gonna have to order a new one in, and it's gonna be harder to get a replacement locally. So I would recommend picking up an additional microphone for this. And finally, my least favorite thing about this microphone is the lack of mounting options on the receiver. I feel like if Fifine wants to start marketing this thing away from live performance and to video creators, great. I mean, for the money, the performance is awesome, but they need to figure out some sort of mounting option for the receiver because it's completely impractical. And I would happily pay an extra $10 on top of the $50 if it meant that the receiver was going to be mounted solid to my camera. Although it was very easy to find a solution for that, it would be a lot better if it was just ready to go out of the box. That said, for 50 bucks, I really don't see how you can get any better than this. It performs well, it hasn't had any reliability issues throughout this entire shoot, and I'm willing to bet that if you replace the microphone that it comes with, that it would just upgrade the setup entirely. And for 50 bucks for wireless transmitter, you drop another 50 bucks on a microphone, I think it would be a killer setup for basically nothing. If you have any questions or you want to continue the conversation, then hit me up in the comments or check out my Instagram and Twitter at FilmMiker. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave an accurate look at both of these microphones, especially showing that you don't really have to spend a whole shit ton of money to get great audio quality. But it is worth it in the long run, in my opinion. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. So this is the bonus Crunchy Leaf ASMR test. Brianna has attached the Sennheiser G3 to this leg and the Fifine K037 to this leg. We're gonna stomp around in the leaves and see what kind of sounds we get. So good. Now just some slow. Look at that.